Good morning, good noon, good afternoon, everybody. Kamari Ellis here, the Finance Rebel. Today, we're going to talk about some interesting stuff as always. But before I get into everything, today's topic is Cash is King. All right. So be sure to like, comment, share this with anybody who's looking to increase their financial level, their financial education level, their financial literacy level. Anybody that's trying to learn more about the world of business and the world of money, be sure to share this with them. Again, today's topic is Cash is King. But before we get to that, I want to talk about something else real quick. And I thought I had it queued up, but I don't. But today, I want to talk about a financial term of the day. All right. And so today's financial term of the day is going to be assets. So, what is an asset? An asset is anything which commercial or exchange value that is owned by a business, institution, or individual. All right. Some examples of what an asset is: house is an asset, stocks are an asset, business interest is an asset. Guess what? Intellectual property is an asset. And when I say intellectual property, I'm talking about patents, trademarks, copyrights. Okay. All of those things are assets. Um, all of those things can be sold. Businesses can be sold. Honestly, food oftentimes is an asset as well, right? It can be sold. You go to the supermarket, you buy it, you need it. It has exchange value sometimes, not always, but those are just some of the basic things that are assets. And so, one of the things I want to do as I start to ramp up and bring back my lives is I'm always looking to educate. And I'm finding that a lot of times people are saying to me, Kamari, I don't even understand some of the basic terms. So, a lot of times I get a lot of questions, not just about topics and concepts and strategies, but just regular words and terms. So we'll be doing that a lot more often. Again, today's financial term of the day is asset. Anything that you own that has a value that can be sold, that can be exchanged, um, can be owned by a person, a company, an institution. What is an institution, though, real quick? Institution can be the government or governments. It can also be when you look at places like a Temple University or Howard University or Harvard University, they're educational institutions, right? So nonprofits, a lot of times are used in term of institution, and um, a lot of legacy businesses and companies sometimes are used as institutions as well. But today's main topic, cash is king. All right. So I see a lot of times, and I had this debate a lot of times about credit being more important than cash. I'm here to tell you that's false. That is incorrect. That is wrong. But I just want to talk about and put some context around it. All right. So a lot of times people talk about, getting credit is very important, and it is. But they think credit is kind of the end all be all. They think credit is like this magical wand or magical formula that you just wave it around and all of a sudden it just makes you wealthy. But in actuality, it's using credit responsibly. But here's the thing, anytime you get credit, there usually has been some type of history of cash payment, right? You're not typically going to get any type of credit without a history of cash payment or using someone's history of cash payment. Why? Because when people give you credit, companies give you credit, banks give you credit, financial institutions give you credit, they want to know that they're going to get paid back, right? So they're not going to lend you money if they're not going to pay you back. Now, there are times when you can do cash balance transfers from one credit card to another credit card. Again, credit cards are a credit instrument. Mortgages are a credit instrument. Car loans are credit instruments. You can see sometimes where you might refi a home and it'll take out the old mortgage and buy the new one or put in place a new one. Sometimes the same thing goes with cars. But again, at the end of the day, you still need cash. Now, the first thing I learned, Finance 101 at Temple University, was cash is king. The first axiom of finance is cash is king. And so that's just kind of, I don't want to say been beaten to me, but bred into me, but it has been, but it's true. Again, anytime you look at a company and you say, is this a good company or a bad company? You look at, some people look at the credit history, and I'm talking about the stock market. But the credit history is then predicated off of how much cash they have, right? It's predicated off of how much cash flow the business brings in. So again, in that instance, cash is king, right? Again, every time there is a conversation about credit, oftentimes that I'm finding in my community, the Black community, we're talking about fixing our credit first. And oftentimes we're talking about fixing our credit first or establishing credit without the true understanding and the fundamentals and the groundwork of letting them know that, yeah, you can use credit to achieve wealth, but ultimately you got to have great cash flow. Now, there's always times, or there can be times, where your cash goes up and down. That happens, right? Just like in anything else. You got different seasons. You have different seasons in life. You have different seasons with your money. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, sometimes you're flat broke. And that's okay. But you still need to understand that any major institution, any super duper wealthy family, any company that's doing really well has a great foundation of cash and cash flow that they're bedded by, or that they're kind of secured by. And I think it's really important that people understand that. If you look at any of the great families, the Rockefeller family, the Kennedys, the Vanderbilts, whoever you want to look at, they figure out ways to generate cash. I don't care if it's through real estate. I don't care if it's through life insurance, right? I don't care if it's through businesses. They're always thinking about and maneuvering and positioning themselves to get cash. Now, yeah, in all actuality, cash is great. Credit is queen, though. Credit is very, very important. But again, the foundation is cash. But what can you do with credit? The credit can amplify your cash. The credit can take your cash to a whole other level. Credit oftentimes is used as a cash flow management tool, basically saying, I don't want to use up all my cash. I'd rather use credit and then come back and pay off all my bills later. I see a lot of real estate people, whether they're flippers or investors, use credit. They'll use lines of credit. They'll use credit cards because they want to make sure that they use up everybody else's money first, and then they'll use their money. But guess what? They still have cash, right? So I can't stress enough how important cash is. Cash is uber important. So when you're thinking about this, right, and you're thinking about, do I establish credit or do I build my cash? It's not always either one. Sometimes you can do both at the same time. But you must know that cash is the most important thing when it comes to any wealth building activities. Well, I take that back. Education, formal or informal, is the most important thing to any wealth building activities. But cash is a strong number two. You're going to need cash. Cash is, again, second from education. Cash is your number one tool, and you want to use and leverage that cash to do other things. Now, think about this. I've already admitted credit is queen, right? But during the 2007, 2008 real estate crash, the Great Recession, as many people call it, what happened? I saw a lot of my clients, real estate guys, go to closing. They were buying a new property and their mortgages got recalled at the last minute. Had they had the cash in place, that wouldn't have been an issue. Same thing happened with some of my real estate rehab flipper clients. They had lines of credit. They were using them to rehab. Those lines of credits got closed, right? So since those lines of credit were closed, they didn't have any available monies, cash, credit, any other assets they can liquidate or sell quickly to complete these flips. right, to complete these rehabs. What happened? A lot of properties wound up getting foreclosed on. Why? Because they didn't have cash. So had you developed a strong basis of cash, even in the midst of chaos, even in the midst of a crisis, you tend to be able to weather the storm a lot better. Again, why did the crisis happen in '07 and '08 and '09? It happened because banks didn't have cash. They did not have cash. So before you start listening to some of these people who are selling credit services, and this is no diss, but everybody is, we're all in business to be in business, right? So we're always going to accentuate the best items or the best features of our product or service, right? And so they always talk about cash. They always talk about how long will it take you to save up money to buy a house versus get a mortgage? How long does it take you to save up money to buy a car? How long does it take you to save up money to buy a business versus going somewhere and getting a loan? Oftentimes that is very, very true. But what good is it to get the credit, to get the house, to get the car, to get the business when you don't have the cash to sustain it? Again, another big lesson that was taught to me and the crash of 2007 and 2009 is that folks didn't have enough cash to sustain any weather. Me, I want to be able to survive and thrive in any environment. Now, again, like I said, you have different seasons in your life, different things happen. I understand that. But if you're going into something just kind of doing it on a wing and a prayer, that's a recipe for disaster. So what's the famous saying? What is it? Those that fail to plan, man, I'm losing it right there. Those that fail to plan, I can't remember what it is. Somebody tell me what it is. Something those people that plan, those people that don't plan, fail to plan, they don't win. Basically, when you don't plan, you don't win. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head. I apologize. But again, cash is so very, very important. So keep that in mind when you go into any kind of planning, any kind of financial planning. You want to buy a car? How much money you got in cash? How much money do you have extra left over after you pay all your bills and between your paycheck and your bills? You want to buy a house? How much house can you afford? Don't get the biggest mortgage you can get. Don't buy the biggest house you can get. Don't buy the biggest car you can get. Be conservative. All right. I'm saying to be conservative, not to tell you not to live your life, but I'm telling you to be a bit more conservative when buying these things, because 9 times out of 10, if you are close to the line, meaning that your expenses are equal to your cash flow or your paycheck, that's probably a surefire way of losing those things. And we don't have time to kind of go into a thing and lose, right? You want to go into every situation with a winner's mindset and a winner's strategy. If you are on the borderline and, you don't have anything concrete that's going to change and increase your cash going forward, give it up. Don't do it. Wait. It's okay to be patient. But society as a whole tells us to do everything now. Society as a whole tells us all to kind of have microwave thinking. Microwave thinking is promoted. Immediate or instant gratification is the thing of the day. And it's been like that for a long time. And a lot of that is also human nature. So it's not just society and current. It's kind of been human nature throughout history, right? But if you want to become wealthy, you got to rebel. You got to do something different. That's why my name is the Finance Rebel, because you have to think about things in a different fashion. You can't just kind of go along and get along, because most people never do anything when it amounts to their finance. You got to do something different. You got to be willing to go against the grain. And in order to go against the grain, you got to think against the grain. So don't be afraid to think. All right. So I'm out, folks. Kamari Ellis out. If you have any questions for me regarding money, taxes, and investments, text me at 484-278-1357. Again, 484-278-1357. Until the next video, y'all stay great.